Let's get one thing straight. Women aren't nearly as mysterious as they like to pretend. Complicated for sure, hard to decode sometimes, but impossible to understand. Not even close. The truth is, no matter how confident, collected, or even emotionally unavailable she may seem, every woman has emotional soft spots. Little pressure points that, when understood, bypass the games, cut through the noise, and speak directly to her deeper self. And no, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about running some game. This is about awareness, stoic awareness, the kind of presence that keeps you grounded while everyone else is chasing approval. Because while other guys are out here bending over backward to be charming, likable, or endlessly agreeable, you'll be the one who stands still, calm, composed, and quietly powerful. In this video, we're diving into the 9 female weaknesses every man needs to know. Not to mess with her head, but to finally stop letting her mess with yours. Some of these will surprise you. A few might sting a little. And one or two, they might explain that random breakup you've been trying to make sense of for years. So if you're done feeling confused and ready to take control, hit that subscribe button now. This isn't about being the nice guy. This is about becoming the right man, the one she never forgets. Let's jump into it. Number 1, confidence that doesn't ask for permission. Here's something most guys never realize until it's way too late. What truly pulls a woman in isn't noise, it's presence. Behavioral psychology shows us that people naturally mirror the emotional state of the person they're interacting with. That means if you walk into a room radiating insecurity, over-explaining every move, or seeking her approval, guess what? She'll feel that and instinctively pull away. But if you walk in grounded, calm, steady, not trying to prove anything, she feels that too. And she can't help but lean in. That's the real kryptonite. Not loud, performative confidence, but the kind that doesn't flinch in silence, that doesn't break when she tests you, that doesn't need applause to feel worthy. Most men overtalk, overgive, over-explain, all in a desperate attempt to prove they're good enough. But real confidence, it just is. But here's where most men blow it without even realizing it. They keep chasing, they keep talking, they keep trying to impress, to explain, to win her over. And the more they chase, the less she feels. Why? Because here's the paradox. A woman only feels truly safe, emotionally safe, when you stop chasing her approval. That's one of the core lessons of Stoicism. You don't react to every mood swing or test. You don't play into the mind games. You hold the line. You remain still, not to be cold, but to be centered. See, what a woman craves at her deepest level isn't control. It's containment. She wants to feel that you are solid, that you're not going to collapse under pressure, that you won't disappear the moment things get complicated. She doesn't need dominance. She needs direction. She doesn't need noise. She needs your stillness. When you can sit in the discomfort and not flinch, when you can stay composed without getting small, you send a message that no compliment could ever match. You're not here begging to be chosen. You're standing on your own ground and inviting her in. You're not carrying her, you're offering her a place beside you. That's not just attractive, that's magnetic. That's the kind of energy that she remembers, that she feels safe around, that pulls her in without a single word. But most men never get there, because they're too busy trying to prove they're good enough instead of actually becoming the kind of man who just is. Confidence isn't loud. It's not a posture. It's not in your flex or your flirt. It's an internal silence, the kind that doesn't rattle. And when you master that, she leans in, not because you pushed, but because you didn't need to. That's the energy that owns the room. And her memory. Third term, 2, being understood without explaining everything. Let's shift gears for a second, because this one hits different. There comes a point in life, especially as we get older, when we stop having emotional outbursts and start experiencing emotional exhaustion. Not because we feel less, but because we've learned the cost of always having to explain ourselves. For many women, especially those who've spent years carrying emotional weight, silence becomes a defense mechanism. Not a peaceful one, but one built from fatigue. She's been dismissed, misunderstood, labeled as difficult just for trying to express what's going on inside. And here's where most men go wrong, not out of meanness, but distraction. They're too busy trying to fix the problem, too busy formulating a response, too uncomfortable to sit with the truth of what she's showing them. But the rare man, the Stoic man, pauses. He doesn't rush to solve it. He doesn't fill the space. He simply holds presence. He doesn't demand clarity. He just sees her, and that disarms her. Not with words, but with presence. I remember an older woman I once knew, late 60s, had gone through 2 marriages and silently carried more pain than most people could ever imagine. She told me the moment she fell in love again wasn't during a romantic dinner or some sweeping gesture. It was the day a man looked at her, noticed something was off, and simply said, "I see you." That was it. No fixing, no questions, just presence. And in that moment, he didn't offer advice. He didn't pry or try to fix her. He just sat beside her quietly, warmly, and stayed. No agenda, no performance, just presence. She later told me that was the first time in years she truly felt seen. Not admired, not heard, seen. That's the kind of depth we're talking about here. The ancient Stoics believed that real wisdom doesn't come from clever speeches or well-crafted responses. It's born from perception, from being able to sense without needing to control, and to observe without jumping to judgment. And that is the very skill so many modern men have forgotten. Because while most guys are busy rehearsing the perfect thing to say or anxiously waiting for their turn to speak, what women actually crave is something so much simpler: to be felt, not analyzed, to be understood without having to perform. If you want to know one of the deepest emotional openings in a woman's heart, it's not about grand romantic gestures or witty one-liners. It's this quiet, consistent attentiveness. The kind of presence that sees her pain and doesn't shrink from it. The strength to sit in her emotion, not to solve it, but to simply hold space for it. In a world that rushes to speak, that rushes to fix, the man who learns to feel without reacting, that man becomes unforgettable. Not because of what he says, but because of how he listens. Number 3, masculine silence in the right moments. Let's take it even deeper, because not all silence is created equal. There's the kind of silence that wounds a cold shoulder, an intentional withdrawal meant to punish or manipulate. But there's another kind, the kind that radiates from a man who's mastered his inner world. That kind of silence, that's not absence, that's presence. And very few men ever reach that level of emotional maturity. Most guys, when faced with emotional pressure, especially from a woman, panic. They overtalk, overjustify, overexplain, thinking the more they say, the more control they have. But here's the truth: that noise doesn't project control. It reveals instability. A man who reacts to every provocation, who can't sit still in tension, who always needs to defend himself, that's a man whose internal foundation is still shaking. And whether consciously or not, women feel it. They feel the cracks in your calm. They feel when your silence is really fear in disguise and not strength. But a man who chooses his words carefully, who holds his tongue not out of pride, but out of principle, who can sit in stillness when others rush to fill the silence, that man is on a different level. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what real masculine silence is. It's not retreat. It's grounded power. It's not running from conflict. It's refusing to waste your energy on chaos that doesn't deserve it. Because when the emotions rise, when she's testing you, when the conversation turns manipulative or messy, your greatest weapon isn't your words, it's your restraint. It's the strength to pause, to breathe, to feel the storm raging around you and not become it. Seneca said it perfectly. Speech may be silver, but silence is gold when it is timely. And that brings us to a point most men completely overlook but can't afford to. Because here's the hard truth. The more you talk just to react, the more power you lose. In relationships, especially under emotional stress, many men believe they're solving the problem by saying more, explaining, more defending, harder. But in reality, they're bleeding presence. Because when your silence comes from awareness, from grounded intentional stillness, not avoidance, it commands attention. It commands respect. And no, she might not consciously understand it in the moment, but she'll feel it. Because in today's hyper-distracted world, where everyone's rushing to be heard, a man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't panic, that kind of calm becomes magnetic. So let's be clear. Stillness is not weakness. True masculinity isn't loud or reactive. It doesn't throw punches just to feel strong. It anchors. It holds the line. You don't need to win every argument. You need to win your peace. And sometimes that starts with saying nothing at all. For deep eye contact that doesn't flinch. Let's move into something even more subtle but just as powerful. Because there's one ancient primal signal that still carries more weight than words ever could. Eye contact. Not the casual kind. Not the, hi, excuse me, glance you give someone at the store. I'm talking about deep, unbroken eye contact. The kind that holds its ground. The kind that lingers 1 second longer when most men look away. That second, that's everything. It's where self-respect lives. It's where insecurity hides. And sadly, it's where most men flinch. I remember years ago meeting a retired Navy officer during a storytelling night for veterans at a local community hall. He was in his late 70s, quiet, silver-haired, steel-eyed. Didn't say much, didn't need to. While the younger men in the room laughed loudly and tried to dominate conversations, this man sat silently, not withdrawn, not aloof, just fully present. When someone spoke to him, he didn't jump to respond. He just looked calmly, fully right into their eyes. And that brief pause, that steady gaze, it made people nervous, not because he was trying to intimidate, but because he wasn't performing. That was his power. His eyes didn't scream, "I'm in control." They simply whispered, "I've seen enough. I don't need to prove anything." That's the kind of energy women feel. Stoic philosophy teaches that true power begins the moment you stop reacting and start observing. But most men, they can't sit still in their own skin. When a woman really looks at them, really sees them, they retreat into overthinking, self-doubt, or some awkward attempt to impress. They shift. They fidget. They look away. And women, even if they don't say it aloud, notice. They feel the wobble in your presence, the flicker in your eyes, the tension in your shoulders. It tells them everything, whether you're grounded or just pretending. Because here's the truth. Deep eye contact isn't about seduction. It's about self-mastery. It's about holding your gaze not to dominate, but to simply be. To say without words, "I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to chase you. I'm here to witness you fully, without fear." That's what makes you unforgettable. In a world full of noise, the man who can hold her gaze without blinking becomes the one she remembers, not because he said all the right things, but because his stillness said what words never could. "I am grounded. I am enough." And when a man can hold her gaze and stay still, truly still, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he wowed her with rehearsed lines or gestures, but because he didn't flinch. He stood in himself. And that presence alone says more than words ever could. Let's move into something a little quieter, but equally powerful. 105, the need for mysterious depth. Here's a psychological insight that might catch you off guard. Studies show that people are significantly more drawn to those who reveal themselves gradually. Not in a manipulative game-playing way, but in a way that feels authentic, measured. A slow burn of curiosity. In a world addicted to oversharing, where most people spill their entire life story in the first 10 minutes, a man who shows restraint, a man who holds his identity with intention, he becomes magnetic. But here's where most guys get mystery all wrong. They confuse it with distance. They think being evasive, sending mixed signals, or being emotionally unavailable makes them intriguing. It doesn't. That's not mystery. It's immaturity in disguise, wrapped in the scent of insecurity. True mystery, the kind that captivates a woman, comes from depth, not disappearance. It doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't play games. It shows up with quiet strength. A man grounded in Stoic principles doesn't feel the need to explain himself in every conversation. Why? Because he understands this, what carries real weight isn't how loud you are. It's how present you are. Women aren't drawn to men who vanish and reappear like magic tricks. They're drawn to men who feel like a novel, layered, thoughtful, unfolding page by page. Men who speak with intention, who reveal meaning with time, not in desperation. The Stoics had a word for this: self-containment. It's not about bottling things up or being emotionally distant. It's about not pouring your soul out in the hopes of being seen or validated. It's choosing to speak when something matters, not just to fill space. It's being fully present without handing over your entire identity like a resume, hoping for approval. It means you listen more than you speak. You answer only what's necessary, and you leave just enough space for discovery. That space you protect, that's where attraction takes root. Takes. Not because you're hiding something, but because you finally stop trying to be understood all at once. Mystery isn't about being hard to reach. It's about being so rich within, so grounded, that people want to reach you. And when you live that way, not to manipulate, but to guard your energy, your words begin to carry weight. Your silences gain meaning. And your presence leaves an echo that lingers. So if you've been oversharing just to feel seen or pushing too hard to prove you're real, pause. Breathe. Reclaim your stillness. Let people earn the right to go deeper. Type it in the comments right now, I lead with depth. Because from this moment on, you don't need to perform to be mysterious. You just need to be whole. And once you lead with depth, the next thing that captures her soul isn't how loud you speak, but why you move. Circle 6. Her soft spot for a man with purpose, not just passion. There's a line that hits harder the older you get. You start to realize that all the noise, the ambition, the wild dreams, the passion, none of it lasts if it's not rooted in something deeper. Let's get this straight. A lot of men believe passion is enough, that if they talk loud, chase big dreams, or hustle nonstop, that makes them impressive. But the truth, passion without direction is chaos. It's fire with no fireplace, movement without aim. And while that energy might spark initial attraction, it doesn't create something lasting. Because what truly moves her, what grounds her, isn't just the excitement you bring, it's the purpose you live by. Passion, that's the emotional fuel. Purpose, that's the engine frame. It's the structure, the consistency, the quiet discipline that keeps going when things get hard, when nobody is watching, and when every excuse says, take a break. Most men talk about what lights them up, but very few live daily in alignment with something that holds them steady. That's the man she remembers. That's the man she respects. The Stoic man doesn't chase hype. He doesn't depend on applause or external validation. He doesn't need someone cheering for him to show up and do the work. He wakes up asking, what is mine to control today? What can I shape with clarity, not just with force, that quiet questioning? That's what separates him. He's not volatile. He's not performing. He's aligned. And you know what? She doesn't want the man who needs her attention just to keep going. She wants the man who moves with purpose, whether she's looking or not, because that's what creates trust. That's what creates respect. That's what turns a man into someone unshakable. And here's the paradox. The less you chase validation, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because when you stop burning fast for attention and start burning slow with purpose-driven discipline, she can feel it. In the way you walk, in the steadiness of your gaze, in the way you hold space, not for performance, but for impact. So if you've been mistaking movement for meaning, if you've been chasing emotional highs thinking they'll impress her, stop. Anchor your energy. Ask yourself, what am I building that would still matter, even if nobody saw it? That's purpose, and that's what she craves, even if she can't quite put it into words. Type it in the comments right now, I move with purpose. Say it like you mean it. Because when you live it, you no longer have to sell who you are. You become it. Now, once you're a man of purpose, calm, clear-grounded, there's something even deeper she craves. 7. Her hidden yearning to be led without being controlled. Let me take you to a moment I witnessed once in a quiet train station in a small Virginia town. An older couple, maybe in their 70s, stood near the platform. The woman was clearly upset. Her voice tense, her shoulders tight beneath the weight of 2 heavy bags slung over her. She was anxious about a delay, her tone sharp and urgent. But the man, he didn't interrupt her. He didn't rush to fix it. He simply looked at her with calm, nodded slowly, took the bags off her shoulder, and stood beside her in silence. No lecture, no forced reassurance, just presence. And you could see it, the shift. Her voice softened. Her shoulders dropped. She exhaled for what looked like the first time that morning. That's not dominance. That's direction. That's the kind of leadership most men overlook entirely. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't about control. It was about clarity, an unspoken signal that said, you don't have to hold it all alone right now. That moment stuck with me because it revealed what so many relationships lack today, real masculine steadiness. And in a world where women are constantly told to lead, to hold it all together, to be both soft and strong, at once, that kind of energy. It's sacred. So when we talk about a woman's deep yearning to be led, let's be crystal clear. We're not talking about command or control. We're talking about safe guidance. Leadership that doesn't bark orders or dismiss emotion, but instead makes room for her to stop performing, stop carrying everything alone and just breathe. That kind of man, he doesn't crumble when life gets chaotic. He doesn't panic when emotions run high. He doesn't chase comfort. He creates calm. He holds the space. He holds the room. And she feels it not as pressure, but as peace. And here's the part most men miss. Real leadership doesn't need to be loud to be felt. In fact, the quieter it is, the more powerful it becomes. If that speaks to you, type it in the comments right now. I lead through calm. Not because you need to be seen saying it, but because it's time to start living it. Now stick around because what's next is even more magnetic than calm leadership. It's not force. It's not status. It's your words and how they paint entire emotional landscapes she never forgets. So once you understand the emotional impact your words can have, not just what you say, but how you say it, there's something even deeper that speaks louder than words ever could. 9. Her unspoken need for a man who can walk away. Let me tell you a story that has stayed with me for years. I met Andre at a quiet little community library, a 61-year-old former Marine with a soft smile and a calm, steady gaze. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room. He didn't command attention with flashy stories or a booming voice. But there was something about him, something different. He was rooted, grounded, unshakable. We sat down to talk and he told me about Linda, a woman he met later in life after years of being widowed. She was vibrant, strong-willed, fiercely independent, the kind of woman who didn't rely on anyone. She was used to solving her own problems, running her own world. But when she was with Andre, something changed. Not because he tried to lead her, not because he impressed her with charm or grand gestures. In fact, he said very little, but he listened completely attentively. When she vented, he didn't interrupt. When she got worked up, he didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to calm her with cliches. He let the storm pass against the steady presence of his silence. And that's when the magic happened. Linda began to soften. She stopped talking like she was fighting a battle. She touched his arm more gently. She laughed, really laughed, like someone who finally felt safe to relax. Why? Because Andre didn't flinch. His stillness wasn't passive. It was powerful. His calm wasn't cold. It was controlled. And in that presence, she felt something women don't often feel safe. And here's the truth. No one tells you emotional safety isn't about fixing every problem. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being a space she doesn't have to defend herself in. It's about being so grounded, so consistent, that she knows no matter what storm shows up in her, you won't become one too. That's the kind of man she trusts with the most delicate hidden parts of herself. Not because you begged for it, not because you convinced her, but because she sensed it in your eyes, your breath, your stillness. This is the essence of true Stoicism in action. You don't earn her softness by trying harder. You earn it by being the kind of man who doesn't break when things get messy, who doesn't retreat when emotions rise, who doesn't try to out-talk her pain, but simply stays, unshaken, not because you're distant, but because you've done the work to be emotionally untouchable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Be the space where she exhales. Be the man who never needs to say you can trust me, because she already does just by how you sit beside her." So if this speaks to something in, you drop it in the comments. I create safe space. Not for praise, not for recognition, but because in the end, the man who earns her trust, the man who unlocks her softness, isn't the one who pushes. It's the one who holds the frame steady and lets her step into it when she's ready. And if you've made it this far, that says something. You're done playing small. You're done bending for approval, shrinking to fit what you think she wants. You're not here to chase anymore. You're here to lead, not with noise, not with performance, but with presence. What we uncovered in this video, it wasn't just her patterns. It was your power, the power you've been leaking every time you people please, explained too much, or tiptoed around truth. No more. This is your call to reclaim it. Go back and rewatch this if you need to. Let it hit where it hurts. Then stand up, breathe deeper, and move forward like a man who doesn't flinch. If this felt like a mirror good, that sting you feel, That's where growth begins. This channel isn't for men chasing trends or begging for attention. It's for the ones who evolve quietly, powerfully, permanently. So if you're ready to become unforgettable, not by being loud, but by being real, hit subscribe. And remember, her chaos dies in your calm. That's not philosophy. That's power. Let it live in you.